Wonderful, good. So, welcome everyone to the first in our Leadership Insight series. I am Professor Stacy Johnson. I am a professor at the University of Nottingham and an absolute fan of the Nursing Now Challenge community. I'm so delighted to see so many of you on the call this afternoon. Hello. I'm going to hand over now to the program director of the Nursing Now Challenge, Professor Gemma Stacy, for her to say a few words of welcome. And Hannah, we're seeing Gemma, but not hearing Gemma.
Ah, bear with me. Can you hear her now?
Not yet.
Stacy here, Programme
Yes.
Director of Nursing Now Challenge. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the first of our Leadership Insights programme sessions. I'm really sorry not to be able to be with you to join the session today, but I know that you are going to be in for a real treat as Professor Stacy Johnson's insights into really the unique and valuable perspective you bring as early career and student leaders and how to utilize that perspective for influence is something that will give you great knowledge skills that you can use going forwards. And that's the purpose of the Leadership Insights programme. These are all intended to be
And we've lost sound, Gemma, again, sound-wise.
We're really interested to hear from you about what you think of the sessions, the kinds of topics you would like us to cover, and the different speakers that you think you would like to hear from. So today is the first of this series. There's some wonderful speakers to follow, Stacey, but I know she will set the groundwork today in just the right tone to get us thinking really carefully, really clearly, and collectively about how we really maximize your voice and your influence as student and early career leaders. Enjoy the session, and I look forward to hearing everything that you learned through your reflections and through your feedback. All the best for now. Bye.
So wonderful to hear from the Nursing Now Challenge program director, Professor Gemma Stacy, who I've known for many, many, many years. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to Umar. It would be wonderful to, if you could just put in the chat where you are joining us from. So everybody, if you can, Clinton, Ephraim, Bernadette, Umar, Suhail, Rita, Zabi, if you can just pop in the chat, where are you listening from? You can put your country, your town. Don't just put hospital or bedroom. Tell us where in the world you're joining from. June, I can see, has joined us. Afanwi has joined us. So great to see so many of you here. Tsung Po, Christiana, just let us know where you're coming, where you're joining us from in the chat. We've got about an hour and 15 minutes together, and I want to share some ideas with you that I have learned from early career nurses and midwives and students, people that I call junior leaders, or people who are leading at the start of their career journey. And I want to share some of those ideas with you today. And again, I hope everybody can see in the chat, we've got Shazia from Pakistan, we've got Hagar from Egypt. Janet, you're just up north. I'm in Nottingham in the United Kingdom. You're up in Stirling. Some wonderful University of Lahore in Pakistan, Poland, New York City is Deirdre. Lots of people from Pakistan. Rashid, it's wonderful to see you from Somaliland. Another person from lots of people from Stirling in Scotland. Oh, Bernadette, special welcome to you from Barbados. I am from Trinidad, a little bit south of you. Kelowna, Canada. I'm a big fan of Canada. Welcome, welcome. Hi from the UK, from Rohini. So hopefully we come back in a second to talk about some of the places and contexts in which you are practicing. Rita from Lebanon, one of my dear friends is from Lebanon. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful Bishop's Walton. Somebody's from Qatar. Hopefully you're staying safe in Qatar. Kenya. Wonderful to see people from all over the world here with us. As I said, I'm Professor Stacy Johnson. I'm a nurse by background. I am from Trinidad and Tobago in the sunny Caribbean. If anybody on the call can't see me for any reason, a visual impairment, I've got brown skin. I'm wearing a rather, I would say bright, very colorful blue dress today. I've got I like to say, I used to say black hair. I've got kind of grayish hair. And so if that helps you to visualize me, hopefully that's helpful as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So this is the first of our Leadership Insight series, and I have spent a lot of time working with leaders at the start of their career journey, student nurses, student midwives, and then people when they have newly qualified. And I have been staggered every time by how much they teach me, how much they inspire me, how much they lead, but they don't realize they're leading. Some of you may recognize yourself there. And not only do they sometimes not recognize that they're leading, often they're thinking, I have to wait to lead. I can lead in the future, not now. And I want us to spend some time today thinking about why I want to put to you, I want to really encourage you to lead now. Don't wait to lead. So I'm going to share some slides with you, and you will get these slides afterwards. And just keep an eye on my screen. And in a second, some slides should appear. And just a note throughout the day, the hour that we spend together, I've got a video that I want to share with you. If there's any issues with the sound, I won't panic. Just be patient with me with the tech. So I want to really encourage you, prompt you to lead now. It's not just about the future, but about the leadership that you can do now. And I say this because we need leadership, not just for the few. So not just the few leaders at the top having all the responsibility for solving all the problems. You know that saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown. The burden of leadership, if it sits with the few, the rich, the powerful, we are not going to be able to solve all the problems we need to solve, nor will we be able to lead for the benefit of all. So today, I want to talk to you about leading now. I want to be able to show you how some of you are leading now and should aspire to lead now, but with this idea of leadership, not for the few, not even for the many, but for all. So leadership for the benefit of all, but also leadership by all types of people. So that's what we're going to spend some time today. I would encourage you, if you would like, my LinkedIn profile, you will be getting these slides. My LinkedIn is on the bottom there if you want to carry on the conversation after the session. And of course, I know that today, Hannah and Martine are tweeting on the hashtag. I would encourage you, if you are using X, tweet, post on the hashtag. If you're on LinkedIn, please post your insights as we spend the day. The couple, not the day, I won't keep you here for the whole day, don't worry, for the next hour or so. Because I really want to encourage you to put your questions and your provocations, your challenges in the chat, any comments, any reflections, but also when we pause throughout the session to say any questions, I want to really encourage everybody in the room to understand that there's equality of power and value and voice in the room. I just got lucky that I was asked to lead the session, but I really want to hear from you. So when, pop questions in the chat, Martine and Hannah are keeping an eye on the chat, but also there's a couple of points where I say, let's pause, take off your mic. Tell me what you're thinking. Okay. So there's parity of power in the room. There are people who are newly qualified. There are students on the call from different countries. We are equal in this room. Say what you need to say, ask what you need to ask. Let's work with each other with grace. I'll be using terms that perhaps are different to the ones that you use in your countries. Forgive me if I get it wrong. Help me to get it right. But because I want us to be able to have really open conversations, I'm going to take a chance and talk about some of the issues, use some terms that may not land so well depending on what your language is, where you are practicing. And let's talk and use our humanity. So I didn't see anybody on the call from the southern parts of Africa, so Zimbabwe, South Africa, but there is an idea from the Zulu and Bantu tradition from those parts of the African continent that I have become very enamored of. You know, I am a Trinidadian woman, so I actually don't know where my ancestors came from because, of course, I am the descendant of a slave. So I've been rediscovering my African roots. And one of the ideas that has really charmed me is Ubuntu. I am because we are. It is, I am only human if and because you recognize my humanity. So I will be referring to my identity. I'll be talking about women leaders, leaders who are of African descent, Asian, South Asian leaders, leaders who are Muslim, leaders who are Christian, etc. And, you know, it is only when we recognize and talk about our identities that we can really begin to unpick some of the issues facing healthcare, nursing, and midwifery leadership now. And hopefully, if we have these terms of engagement, parity of power in the room, join in, grace, and humanity, hopefully we can have really a big game-changing conversation about the future of leadership and this confessional openness across this length of the session. Okay. And if you think I've forgotten anything, if there are any other terms of engagement you think we need, just pop them in the chat, and I will keep an eye on the chat as well. You know, the obvious things, respect and so on. So today we're going to think about why is thinking about leadership? Why do we need a whole series on leadership? And why is new thinking about who leads, for who, for what purpose, and for whom? We're going to talk a bit about spreading leadership beyond just a few, making leadership more democratic, democratizing leadership, sharing leadership power in all levels of the organization, not just senior people, older people, people who have been in the careers, healthcare, nursing, midwifery for a long time. So we're going to talk about democratizing leadership and why that might be beneficial. I'm going to share with you some ideas from a couple of projects I've worked on, which have just confirmed my understanding of the power of leaders like you at the start of your career journey. Students, newly qualified nurses and midwives, people within the first year, 2 years, 3 years of their healthcare career journeys. And then, hopefully, through some discussion and a couple of other thoughts, I'll talk to you about what this might mean for your leadership journey. And I'll give you a couple of examples of tools that have helped me in terms of how I continue to develop myself as a leader. So that's what we're going to cover in the next little while. And Hannah and Martina are going to help me to keep to time so that I let you go, because I suspect some of you are up in the middle of the night and we really appreciate you joining. So why you? Why am I not only talking about leadership with the very senior leaders, the people who've been in the game for a while? Why am I saying to you, lead now, not just in the future? Why do I not only refer, I do believe that you are future leaders, but I believe that many of you, without realizing it, are leading now and should be leading now. And we'll talk a little bit about the whys of that first. So let me put a question to you. What are the most, from your perspective, what are the most urgent health challenges that you are facing where you are? Just have a think about it. What are the most urgent health challenges facing you, your country, your town, your hospital, your facility, your community where you are trying to deliver healthcare? And I want to try something. How I would like you to tell me about the most urgent health challenges is if you have your phone, You can scan this QR code, or if you look in a second in the chat, you should be able to click, if you're on your laptop, for instance, you should be able to click on the link in the chat and it will take you to an electronic notice board where I'd like you to just write one thing about how what challenges are facing you in wherever you are. Okay. So in a second, I am going to now for the whole session, do bear with me when I'm jumping around and my screen is appearing and disappearing, right? So in the chat now is a web link. If you click on that web link, it will take you to a pink swirly notice board. I can see, gosh, somebody's already cracked it. It will take you to that pink notice board. For those of you who've not used Padlet, this electronic notice board before, what you do is you click on this kind of yellowy green rectangle where it says post. A box will appear and just write something. Click on the pink publish sign and your point will appear in the top left. And maybe Martine or Hannah, just confirm that you can see my blue swirly Padlet board. Yep. What's the most urgent health challenges facing you where you are? Once you've written yours, have a look at what other people are writing. Staff shortages, care for displaced persons, recognition for your role, for the role of nursing, the value of nursing. Nurse leadership is a challenge. Underfunding of maternity services. Can you see that two people have put the same thing? They're probably from completely different countries and settings. But look, some common challenges: surgical backlog, violence and bullying, political suppression, underfunding, staff shortages, funding, underfunding, waiting times, corridor care. Keep them coming, keep them coming. In Spain, healthcare, personnel shortages. Look at that. Personnel shortages in Spain and two at least other places. Transition from hospital-centered system to exactly what we're experiencing here in the UK. The person who's written that from Spain. Focus on prevention, not just concentrating care in hospitals. Rewarding staff. Okay. So these are some of the challenges facing physical resources. And this is in low and middle income countries and countries that believe they have higher incomes. Challenges of physical resources, scarcity. So students experiencing exhaustion, students and staff experiencing exhaustion at the end of their rope. Lack of nursing leadership roles, managing expectations, non-communicable diseases, nurse leadership, nurses looked down upon professionally, but also by members of the public, but also us having to hold each other to account, non-competent nurses, burnout, low wages. So let me put this to you. Do you think that the current approaches to leadership, the current people that lead us, the current ways that people lead, the small number of people relatively in which leadership power is held, do you think the current way we do leadership will allow us to address these wicked challenges? What do you think? Pop something in the chat. Do you think the current approaches to leadership will allow us to really address these 30, 40 challenges that are appearing here? Burnout, nurses' mental health, partiality, rostering, managing expectations. If we carry on leading and leadership, the face of leadership stays the same, we will struggle to meet these contemporary challenges that are facing nursing and healthcare globally. Okay? So this begins to lay the foundations for this important conversation that we're having here. Traditional leadership approaches still heavily rely on leaders' formal position of power and authority in the organization, having head of in their title, director of in the title. And I guess my question to you is this still appropriate in the face of the contemporary challenges that you have just put up there on the notice board? And of course, in terms of failures of care. And even if it's not just about meeting challenges and dealing with crises, failures of care, not able to care for displaced people, some of those challenges, even if we're not dealing with problems, will the current approach to leadership on its own help us advance practice? Let's say you're not focusing on problems. Let's say you're focusing on improving and enhancing and advancing practice. Do you think the current traditional approaches will meet that very, very high bar? We need to move beyond our traditional approaches and move towards leadership, not for the few, not for the many, but for all. And by that I mean leadership for the benefit of all, whether I am a woman or a man, whether I am displaced or happily living in my safe home in a non-conflict area, whether I am poor or wealthy, whether I have a disability, I have not got, I'm an amputee, or whether I am fully able-bodied. Leadership for the benefit of all, not just for the few, not just for the rich, not just for the people who can make it to a hospital facility. How do we develop our approach to leadership, and how do we develop more leaders so that all can benefit, all of the people that need healthcare can benefit? And often one of the issues we encounter is that people see leadership as the building of an empire. And I want to put to you that an approach to leadership for the future is about leadership as service to all. Now, notice I don't say servitude. So I very much want to encourage nurses, student nurses, people at the start of their career journey, midwives, to become politically astute. So in fact, the former program director of nursing now, Professor Aisha Holloway, now the chief nurse for Scotland, is a big proponent of politically aware and astute and active nurses. We should be involved in generating policy. We should be involved. And I don't mean politics with a big P, as in party politics, being voted for, becoming ministers, but being part of the policy making. And here, of course, we're thinking about leadership approaches that are more contemporary, that will meet these needs. Inclusive leadership. Servant leadership. So not the building of empire and leadership driven by ego, but servant leadership, ethical leadership, compassionate leadership. So go out, read about those approaches to leadership. And I put to you that those types of leadership are what we're aiming for to be able to meet some of those very difficult challenges that you put up. And not just leadership for the benefit of all patients, all service users, all members of the public, regardless of their social backgrounds, but leadership by all. What I like to refer to as all hands on deck leadership. It begins to hopefully demonstrate to you why you who has only been qualified for 1 year. Why you, a second-year student? All hands, because these problems are too complex for just a few leaders to have to try and solve. We also want to ensure that leadership by all includes the opportunity for everyone to advance in their career, everyone to be able to have the opportunity to contribute and participate in the planning, delivery of healthcare. You're not just there to carry out orders, but actually to contribute to solving problems, improving quality and patient safety. The progress and success of people with a range of characteristics. In some countries, like the United Kingdom, we see that even though the vast majority of nurses and midwives are women. A disproportionate, a higher proportion of the leaders are men, for instance. The career chances, the progression is different based on your social characteristics, where you went to university or school, your gender or sex. And of course, it lays the foundation then for, again, more contemporary approaches to leadership, like collective leadership, sharing of power, distributed leadership in organizations. Why you? Why now, not just in the future? So I'm wanting to turn your attention then beyond traditional approaches to leadership to more critical approaches where we look at power dynamics. Who leads? Why? Why are some people held back from leadership? Why is it that in healthcare we tend to say, wait until you have lots more experience? Wait, sit down, be quiet, don't lead until you have a formal role, until you're 20 years into your career. We want to look at these critical approaches. We want to look at more shared and democratic leadership, and also this notion of all hands to the pump, all hands leadership. It would be good if we transition from thinking about leaders of organizations, just the people at the top with formal authority, many, many years of experience. Their job title is director of, head of, to instead thinking about looking to create leaders in organization. You may be a leader in the organization. You don't have to be leading the whole organization to be able to have impact. So you can begin to see how you, year two qualified, you don't have to be leading a team to be leading care, leading services, leading improvement, quality improvement or safety improvement, leading at the bedside. So think about being a leader in your organization, not necessarily a leader of your organization. You don't have to wait until you're the leader of the organization. The imperative now then, because of the weight of the challenges, for every worker, every student, every newly qualified to be leaderly now. We sometimes think we have to be a fully formed leader, the leader, a leader. And I want to put to you that the idea of being leaderly, demonstrating some of the characteristics of a leader, being persuasive, noticing, being able to identify problems and willing to include others to solve those problems. This notion of being leaderly, demonstrating some of the characteristics, is a very powerful idea for people like you at the start of your career journey. So again, two things already. Don't think of yourself as the leader of the organization. Start thinking about yourself as a leader in the organization. And also consider thinking about, rather than thinking I need to be the perfectly formed leader, could I now be leaderly if I'm demonstrating some of the characteristics of leaders? And again, as teams, if there are any more senior people on the call where you're thinking, well, how do I do that? How do I bring people at the start of their career journey into the leadership fold? How do you begin to think about drawing on these new era, future focused approaches? So not just traditional leadership, authoritarian leadership that's based on being a matron, but actually collective leadership, sharing leadership, saying, you've just graduated from your nursing course, so you have up-to-date information about patient safety or the care of the respiratory patient. Can I ask you to lead a project on newly qualified? Or some of you on the call have mentored students. They're up to date on all the latest thinking, all the latest research. Can you be saying to them, you share, you teach me, you lead today? Compassionate leadership. So rather than very authoritarian approaches that forget about that humanity I was talking about with Ubuntu, this notion of compassionate leadership, where we are drawing on each other's humanity. Some of the problems that we saw on that notice board were burnout, staff struggling, where we see the role here of compassionate leadership as a brand of leadership, compassionate leaders who are inspirational, who fill people back up, motivate people. So again, a new era approach to leadership. And of course, inclusive leadership, bringing everybody in, not just the very traditional leaders that we see, the traditional genders and sexes and so on of leaders that we see. This idea of leadership that is everywhere, pervasive in all levels of the organization. Now, I am not advocating or suggesting that we have chaos, that everybody manages, everybody has responsibility, and everybody's accountable. It may cause some disruption. Even this, imagine the surprise when a director of nursing says, "This is my student. She has some ideas. I'm handing the meeting over to her, handing leadership from above over to a student." It will cause disruption. But actually, when it is enacted through mechanisms like practical collective leadership, shared governance is another mechanism, practical mechanism that some hospitals, for example, that are magnet hospitals, some of you from America will know about the Magnet Initiative. They have very well formed processes to be able to share that leadership so that you don't have chaos. So don't mistake leadership at all levels and my encouragement for everybody to be leaderly with a license for chaos. Okay? It is about saying, well, what decisions can these leaders at different levels make? But first, we have to start with a foundational idea that actually people at different parts of the organization can lead. Okay, so leadership for all through some of these more contemporary approaches to address some of these very difficult, wicked problems. I'll give you a couple of examples. So, lessons from this project that was the European Junior Leadership Academy. If there's anybody on the call from Slovenia, welcome. Portugal, Southern Ireland, and England were in this project. And it was a project funded by the European Union, the European Commission through the Erasmus scheme. We identified students who had demonstrated leadership aptitude. They were doing things and they didn't realize they were leading. We supported them to develop their leadership identity by exposing them to leaders' signatures, watching inspirational leaders. And we brought them together to do a series of activities. Now, this is us learning, sharing, students, members of the public, patients, patient leaders, lecturers. It's also us working. And here's what we found. We gathered together for that leadership festival and we asked patients, patient leaders, senior leaders from universities, what are these characteristics, these student leaders, what I refer to controversially as junior leaders? We said, well, how are they different from other types of leaders, people at the start of their career journey, students? How are they different? And we ran so many events in that week that asked people to tell us what were the characteristics of these junior leaders. These were what they said. Here's a characteristic. These junior leaders, leaders that start their career, notice they don't have to be young. They could be people starting out in nursing, having come from a different career, having raised a family. They influence other people when they don't have a formal role. They're not senior. They've not been in the organization for a long time. They are young. They're newly qualified, but they're able to influence others. They make the old new and the new novel. So often what we find is that junior leaders, you say, well, we've tried that before. A leader gives a junior leader, a student gives an idea, and the experienced, wiser nurse or midwife says, oh, we tried that before. But the student nurse says, but let's try it again. Let's try again. They also said that one of the things that they admired about student leaders is that they approached every experience, even things that become routine, taking vital signs, checking on patients, routine tasks. They approached all experiences with fascination, as if there is something to learn, even though it seemed like a really routine thing. Remember, we lose that the longer we're in the healthcare game. Okay. And they also said that one of the types of permissions that these junior leaders, these student leaders had was They were idealistic. They believed that perfect care, perfect nursing care, perfect midwifery care was possible. And they had the courage of curiosity. Some of you remember your student days. Some of you have mentored students. They're always asking questions, curious, curious, wanting to know more, insatiably curious, hungry for knowledge. And what these groups said was this is a feature of junior leadership, people at the start of their career journey that we want to retain, we want to take advantage of because it is a distinctive type of leadership that we should take advantage of in organizations. Okay? So, junior leaders, let me just pause there and see if I can bring you in. 1 second. I'm just going to stop sharing. What are some of the thoughts? Put something in the chat. If you're feeling brave, just unmute your mic. What are some of your observations so far? Maybe if you yourself are, I'm controversially referring to junior leaders, you've just started out, you're 1 year qualified. Have you ever been told, stop asking questions? Do you find that you are hungrily curious? If you are maybe 1 year qualified, 2 year qualified, and you're looking after student nurses, have you noticed that hungry curiosity and the benefit? Can you see the benefit you can get from that? Or tell me what you think about the challenges that you put on the notice board and whether, my contention that normal, old-fashioned, traditional leadership can't help us address those challenges. What are your thoughts so far? Pop something in the chat or be brave and unmute your mic and jump in.
I'll be brave and
Go for it.
Mike. My name is Stacy.
Oh, hello, Stacy. Welcome from another
I'm
Stacy.
a newly qualified nurse.
Mhm.
I'm 6 months into practice
Yes,
in the UK.
yes.
And my challenges are being new. I've
Mm.
also joined the RCN
Yes,
as a rep.
yes,
And as a newly qualified, I'm finding it very challenging because it's a new role and it's not something that the older leaders, it's not it's new that they're taking on newly qualified
yeah,
as leaders in the RCN and
yeah,
organizations like my trust. It's a new thing, so they
yes,
don't know what to do with us. So I
yes,
find that I'm very restricted because when it comes to engaging with,
yes.
let's say, the staff side,
Mhm.
I'm told, oh, you're still too early into your career. You
Yes,
shouldn't be doing much because you end up burning out. But
yes,
I'm attending these meetings because I want to learn, because it's all to do with the trust policies and procedures.
yes,
I want that chance to be able to learn how they communicate so that I can learn how to communicate what everything that we get out of the policy discussions to my fellow colleagues.
yes,
But if I'm told that I need a year to
mm,
before I can start doing my rep role,
yes,
where am I going to start learning it from?
yes.
How am I going to
Absolutely.
learn? I'm not getting that support. I don't.
Yeah.
And also, I know that reps have facility time,
Mhm,
but they should be paid.
mhm.
I'm told that you should stop attending so many meetings because
Yeah.
there is no funding for it. And you
Mm,
should be focusing on your preceptorship more.
yes, yes.
But
So
if
you can
I'm to be a leader,
see.
where is the support
Yes,
coming
yeah,
in?
yeah, absolutely. And you can see there's a few different barriers that Stacey has already identified to people getting out of the way or supporting people at the start of their career journey, newly qualified to lead, right? And you see some of them in the chat as well, right? So as Stacey mentioned, where am I supposed to role model learning? Well, they're saying wait to lead, wait to lead. I'm saying lead now. But some of the practical approaches. So I think who was it? Somebody mentioned shared governance as a way. That might be one of the solutions in terms of practically how do RCN and also in the hospital that you're working, in the chat as well, other people are saying, shared leadership so powerful, frontline empowerment. I see your question, Georgie. What about 8 years in service? Am I qualified? It depends on what you see your identity as, because maybe you've just moved to a new specialty. So you're 8 years qualified, but maybe you're at the start of that career journey, So never too late to reorient your thinking on leadership, right? Or it could be that 8 years in, you are supporting other leaders. So the question, new leaders, junior leaders. So, okay, how do you make sure you're not shutting them down? How do you make sure that you are not stifling their urge to lead? Okay. Um, I'm going to move on. Keep putting your thoughts in the chat. Let me just share my screen again. Another project example where I have seen junior leaders really influencing is the reverse mentoring for equality, diversity, and inclusion project, the Remedy project. So just bear with me. In a second, you should see slides. So this reverse mentoring project, so some of you might have come across reverse mentoring before. This is where a person in a senior position is mentored by someone in a more junior position than themselves, right? Listen again. The person in the senior position is mentored by the person in the more junior position. So, for example, about 4 years ago, I was an associate professor then. I was mentored by a second year student from the business school. So he was a student, he was younger than me. He was mentoring me. Here's what it's like to be me in the university. At the University of Surrey, we had second year student nurses mentoring practice educators in the surrounding hospitals. Here is how my practice experience is. Here is what I struggle with. Here's how you're not making a good experience for me to learn. We had junior members of staff reverse mentoring directors of nursing. The more junior person mentoring the more senior person. Here's how I've just started out. Here's what I've just arrived in the organization. Here's what I see with fresh eyes. Let me show you. Let me teach you. Let me show you my world. Right? And these tend to be people at the start of their career journey. They tend to be younger. It's women reverse mentoring men who tend to be in more senior positions. It's disabled people reverse mentoring leaders who are able-bodied, people from different ethnic backgrounds, people, I'm Christian, maybe I want to be reverse mentored by a Muslim student who might say, here's what you need to know about how you can help me during Ramadan to still go into placement, right? So I've seen so many examples of where students, junior people, can influence leaders to improve services, education in universities, in commercial companies. Some of you, like Stacy, who's in the UK, we've just doing reverse mentoring in Marks and Spencer's, but also in hospitals, in universities, right? How can people who are at the start of their career journey really share their experiences with leaders who can then improve services? So another example of how disrupting that power dynamic, allowing people who seem to be new, junior, to share their experiences and their insights as a way of leading can lead to improvements in services. Let me pause here again. What do you think? What are you thinking? So let's say, I don't know, Andres, I'm going to pair you up with your director of nursing. Where are you working at the moment, Andres? Andres Tewan Ortega. I'm picking on people now. Just be brave, Andres. Are you working in a hospital? Are you a midwife? Are you a nurse? Just unmute your mic if you can.
Sorry. I am a nurse and I'm working at the Hospital Clinic of Barcelona in Spain.
Okay. So what would you think, Andres, if I said to you, Andres, I want you to reverse mentor your director of nursing, who is a 57-year-old woman who's been in healthcare for 30 years. How do you feel about that idea of reverse mentoring a leader? As a junior leader, a person at the start of your career journey, how would you feel about, what do you think you have to offer? What do you think you would have to teach her? How do you feel about that?
Oh, I mean, I didn't know about this project. I think it's super interesting. And I think sometimes we don't say that, I mean, we don't use the term, well, this kind of project, but we use, not in my case, but for example, there may be some chief nursing officers or some senior nurses or leaders that might receive help from junior leaders, from junior nurses, but not with these terms, but maybe, I don't know, like maybe they promote focus groups to really understand like the context of newly qualified nurses. So it's not the same,
Yes.
but it might work as well.
Yeah.
But I think that this kind of project, if I've never seen anything like this in Spain, nor in my context.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it could be really done in every placement or in every hospital from my environment. But we usually do other kinds of things like focus groups.
Yeah.
So that might be similar.
Yes,
I could
absolutely.
help them, yeah, to understand like what's the reality when newly qualified nurses enter to the hospital.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be a formal reverse mentoring relationship or program, but just this
Okay.
idea that you're like, look, it was successful. All these leaders. So for example, one chief executive of a hospital, she said being reverse mentored was the most profound personal and professional development experience I've ever had. Right? So I'm just thinking, even if you weren't in a reverse mentoring relationship, the mere idea that top leaders are saying, I learned from junior people, maybe it makes you, all the people on the call, a little bit more brave. The next time you're thinking, I have an idea, but the matron is not going to want to know my idea. Hopefully remember that reverse mentoring project and think, yeah, I'm going to go and try. I'm going to say, I have an idea. May I share it with you? And not feel too scared. Yes. Let me take one more set of observations. Afanui or anybody else who wants to share just before we move on. What are you thinking about whether it's about the reverse mentoring idea that a more junior person can mentor a leader or any of the previous ideas? Anybody wants to share one more thing? Unmute your mic and jump in.
Hi there. Sorry, I can't show my video right now. In the health board that I work here in Scotland, we have an event program every 3 months,
Yes.
and it's from the senior the chief nurse organizes it and
Yeah.
invites everybody. So if you're interested, the clinical support workers, newly qualified nurses, experienced nurses, everybody from the nursing, you're invited. And they give you time to speak about problems that we're facing day to day, and they look at that and find ways to solve it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Gathering intelligence from everybody, not just the senior people. Yeah. It can only add to the perspectives they have and improve their ability to solve problems. Yeah. So great. So some two examples then. What does this mean for you practically, right? So um, there's a wonderful professor, Herminia Ibarra. She's Cuban American. She was at INSEAD. Somebody from Spain. She was at INSEAD for a bit, and now she's at London Business School. And weirdly, I want to share a few ideas from Professor Herminia Ibarra that I have come to really love, but also that have helped me as a leader, right? So I talk about reverse mentoring. I talk about Junior Leadership Academy. I talk about you being leaderly, and you're thinking, well, how? I'm not a leader. I'm not in a position. One of the things that people sometimes will say to you is fake it till you make it. I want you to not do that. Do not fake it till you make it. Do not be fake. Do not pretend. You want to be authentic, okay? But the idea that Ermina Ibarra presents in her book from 2015, there's a new version in 2023, the book is called Act Like a Leader, Think Like a Leader. Now, notice she says act like a leader, not fake being a leader, right? One is authentic, one is inauthentic, right? She says do leadership things, do activities, stretch yourself, try out a leadership project, try out a leadership activity, take on that rep role like Stacy has, act act like a leader. And as you do it and reflect, you will begin to think like a leader and therefore be a leader. Take the chance, step forward, do it, act on it, and you will begin to think like a leader and therefore be a leader, right? So act like a leader, think like a leader from Imran Ibar. Do not fake, act. Another thing that sometimes stops us is this sense of imposter syndrome. And I want to put to you, double check, is it imposter syndrome, which is the internal view that I don't belong, I'm not good enough? Or is it actually trespasser syndrome? The organization, the leaders around you are making you feel like you don't belong. Some of it is internal. What are the things you tell yourself about what you can't do? Work on those things. But also make sure that you're not in the wrong environment that is damaging you, smothering you. Trespasser syndrome. You don't belong here. Only men lead here, or only if you're from Trinidad, only people who are born in Trinidad can lead in Trinidad. Right? Is it imposter syndrome holding you back, or is it trespasser syndrome? And address both sources of things that are holding you back as a barrier. Remember, I said leadership by all so that it benefits all types of patients, rich people, poor people, people of African descent, if you are living in the UK, racially minority ethnic groups, for instance, right? You are needed. Your different perspective, because of your different background, your different religion, is needed so that we have many perspectives on the same problem. You know, often when you are the only one, when you are one of few, we shrink. I'm different. There's only me. I want you to consider instead doing the opposite. They need me. Everybody else is the same. They have the same experiences, the same views. They need a different view to help them solve these wicked problems. So in fact, rather than making being socially distinct the only, make you shrink, instead make it the source of your boldness. Here's my high-tech solution. Capitalize on being weird. Your weirdness is a benefit. Think about yourself as a unicorn leader. I am the only hijabi in the room. Nobody else is like me. They need my perspective. And proceed as if welcome. Share your ideas as if they've invited your ideas. Try that out a couple of times and see what response you get. Now, remember, you're going to have to be brave and resilient because sometimes you will be knocked back, right? But try. Proceed as if welcome. Another idea from Professor Ermine, you can tell I'm a major fangirl of Erminia Ibarra, is she talks about the power of insight and outsight. Let me tell you a bit more about those two things. So insight is about internal knowledge. It's about you reflecting on the past experiences. So it's introspection and also reflection. And I know that in nursing and midwifery, we focus a lot on reflection. Keep doing reflection. That's important. But she also talks about the benefit of outside, right? So for instance, reflecting on past experiences, do you have leadership aptitude? What are the indicators? What are the examples of when you've led? Oh, I am a course rep, right? Reflecting on past experiences. The fact that you feel this urge to lead, you're drawn to leadership roles, reflect on that and notice, I have aptitude and affinity. I like to lead, right? Insight, reflection, looking back. Okay? Think about your leadership identity. How do you see yourself? Your internal sense of yourself. Do you see yourself as a leader? Is that a term you would attach to yourself? If not, can you at least attach the term of being leaderly? What work do you have to do on your identity? How can you develop your identity so you see yourself as a leader? Some of you on the call might be remembering instances where a course leader or a matron has said, you are a good leader and you never thought of yourself as a leader. The external view of you versus your internal sense of leadership, right? So think about how you can really work, do projects where your identity is developed, identity work, and form that leadership identity, how you see yourself. And also, this notion of a hybrid identity is more than one identity. If you used to work in banking and then you came into nursing later, if you are a parent and you are also a nurse, those two identities can make your leadership identity even stronger. And then what shows up to other people? Leadership signature. What do other people see and experience if you are leading them? Right? What mark do you leave on people with your words, your role modeling, your deeds? What mark might you leave on the situation, the issue at hand, right? As in, I want to solve the problem of poor health access for people who are displaced. What mark can you leave on an issue? That is the leadership signature. What mark can you leave? But also start thinking of the future. What mark do you want to leave in the future? What do you want your leadership signature to be? Okay. Outside, so those are insight. What about outside? This is where, again, you have to be brave. You're developing your leadership. Outside, Professor Imania Ibarra says, is about external knowledge, not the knowledge you already have, and also knowledge from other sources. So don't just focus on nursing knowledge, biology knowledge, midwifery knowledge. Go and read stuff that the people in design, fashion, engineering are reading. Read knowledge that is not to do with nursing and healthcare, leadership knowledge, engineering knowledge, that kind of thing, external knowledge. Build new relationships. So one of the biggest barriers is that we stay within our own peer group. Try and be in the presence of other leaders. Develop relationships with senior leaders. Can I come and spend the morning with you? Can I shadow you? And exposing yourself to new experiences, new leadership experiences. This thing about acting like a leader. Expose yourself to new experiences and take action. Walk up to that matron and say, I have an idea. Right? So this quote from Ibarra, plunge yourself. You remember, don't prepare and just plunge yourself into new projects and activities. Expose yourself to different kinds of people, the person that looks most different to you, and experiment with unfamiliar ways of getting things done. Trying out new things is something she really advocates if you're trying to develop your competence as a leader. Okay. And I'm just going to try really quickly to play a very short video for you. 1 second. Just bear with me with the tech. I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to share my video. See, this is always a risk when you go with the tech, right? But I really wanted to show you this video. So 1 second. So this is an example about this notion of plunging yourself into new experiences and ideas. Share sound, optimize for video sharing. Okay, so, and just if somebody can confirm in a second that they can hear and see the video.
This event today is a community engagement event. We were invited by Nottingham University through the RFCA to come and give a leadership morning, which will involve some theory and some practical exercises to sort of enhance that theory throughout the morning. We'll give the students command tasks, which are basically simple things where they have to navigate people and equipment across an area of land. And they have to obviously move all those people and equipment to the far side in a certain time, and obviously in a successful manner. And we're a movement control regiment and a postal courier regiment. Okay, so basically we move people and equipment around the world, and obviously the mail that obviously those individuals would like to receive when they're away on operations.
So today is day 3 of leadership. And I want you to hear from some of the students. Been amazing so far. The main reason why I wanted to come was because in nursing itself, I think leadership is very important. It's very easy for people to take on managerial roles, but not really know what they're doing. So for me, it was like, okay, I think I have leadership attributes, but how can I bring what I already have to the table and bring it into nursing? Okay, so the reason I shared that video was this notion of plunge yourself into new experiences. We deliberately wanted to give nurses and midwives an experience that they would not normally have. So we brought in the army to do these commands. They took them outside. It wasn't in a classroom. They had to, it wasn't save this patient. Like, sometimes when you're doing simulation, it's a patient. It's like, no, get this barrel from this place to this place without touching the floor. Figure out a way to do it as a team. And it was with a very unfamiliar set of leaders. It was the army. A lot of our student nurses hadn't worked with forces before, and you can then see that one student talking about how it was notion of bringing the ideas that they learned from doing those tasks from very completely different relationships with the armed forces into their nursing practice. Okay, so yes, we created that in that Junior Leadership Academy, but you on your own, go looking for different experiences. I'm not saying you have to go and work with the army and do those command tasks, but open yourself up to different experiences to be able to develop those aspects of your leadership. Okay. In the last few minutes, I'm going to leave some more time for you to get involved and chat as well. I want to now share with you, because you'll be saying to me still, Stacy, practically, how do I do this? Practically, how do I learn? Okay. So I'm going to, as you can imagine, loads of different tools, but I want to focus on 3 things that A, have helped me, and B, that I've seen really transform other people. Okay. So again, bear with me. I'm going to share my screen in a second. So many of you, particularly those who have trained in the UK, you think about mentorship a lot, right? So some tools for the journey. Yes, I would like you to seek out a mentor, right? A very powerful tool. Mentorship is a collaborative relationship in which a more experienced person supports a less experienced person. So always seek out mentorship. I tend to, every few months, I pause and I think, have I got a mentor? And am I mentoring anybody? And if at any point I find that I don't have a mentor or I'm not mentoring anybody, I'm like, pull yourself together, go and find somebody to mentor and find a mentor. Okay? So very powerful, right? Think about who can you ask to mentor you to help you develop your skills, your knowledge, and your confidence. However, also consider at some point that you might benefit from having a coach, a professional coach, a career coach. A coach is a very different thing to a mentor. Again, another collaborative relationship, but it's very goal focused, where a trained coach helps you to improve your performance in a very specific area, achieve a very specific goal. Like, I'm applying for my first job. Can you coach me through the interview process? I'm changing roles. I'm going from, I've been qualified 2 years now, applying for a more senior role. Can you coach me through the first 3 months of that role? It's slightly different to just general guidance and mentorship. And for me, most powerful, sponsorship. Sponsors don't just advise like mentors do. They actively influence for you. They open doors for you in the corridors of power where you are not. Okay, 3 very different things, right? Let me show you a little diagram that helps. So with mentoring, it's often around skills development, guidance, support, moral support, commiseration. You can do it, encouragement, cheerleading. Coaching is development and a particular part of your performance that you want to improve. Sponsorship tends to be about career advancement because they are opening up doors, they're offering opportunities. Okay? This diagram I think really helps. The mentor talks with you, guides, supports. The coach talks to you. Here's what you need to do to improve this skill. Practice. I'm going to watch you and give you feedback. The sponsor talks about you in the corridors of power where you are not. I know this real up and coming young student or this really up and coming newly qualified. She's only been in the organization a couple of years, but I've got my eye on her. And she's saying that to directors of nursing or whoever, very senior people. Okay? So consider who might be your mentor. When might you take advantage of coaching? You remember, a lot of your organizations will offer coaching, right? You don't have to go and pay for it yourself, okay? But also, who might you get to sponsor you? Look, we're back to Erminia Ibarra. She talks about these 5 areas of sponsorship. There's some mentoring in there, but she says the sponsor helps you to strategize your career. You're doing a project and you've not done a big project like that before because you're a second-year student nurse or you're now a new course rep. That sponsor will help you to strategize. They will connect you. They will introduce you to others. Oh, I know a really amazing student. Now, let me introduce you to my friend who is doing this project, who's more senior than you, right? They will connect you. They will open up their networks to you. They will create opportunities for you. Okay, I think you need to develop your strategic thinking. Come on this project with me, right? And they will advocate for you. They will speak about you in the corridors of power where you are not, okay? The last thing I would say about sponsorship versus mentorship and coaching is you can ask somebody to sponsor you. So Professor Gemma Stacy, Professor Gemma, will you be my mentor? Yes, you can do that. Gemma, will you coach me? Yes, you can do that. But you can't ask Gemma to sponsor. You can't say, Gemma, will you sponsor me? Because remember, they're opening up their networks. They're taking a chance on you. They are risking their reputation by talking about you. So they have to have noticed that you are doing a good job. They have to choose to sponsor you. You can't ask somebody to sponsor you. Okay? But you can invoke sponsorship. You can say to senior leaders, I'm missing this. I haven't had a chance to run a project. I've just started a new role at the RCN or in my hospital. Can you keep me in mind if you see any opportunities for me to really develop as a project leader or as a course rep? Or can I spend the morning with you so I can observe how you run meetings? Because I've just taken over as the chair of my staff network or the shared governance council. So you can't say, will you sponsor me? But you can show people that you're hungry and they can then choose to sponsor you. Okay? In the last couple of minutes, let's go back again to the Padlet. What's your biggest takeaway? What's the biggest thing that you're going to be taking away from the session? And while you're doing that, I will also put it in the link in the chat for you. What's your biggest takeaway? Or pop it in the chat as well. Okay, so either on the Padlet or pop something in the chat, and I'm gonna put the link there as well. I will leave this link open in case you want to put something later tonight, and we'll make sure that we share the links with you when we send out the slides. What's your biggest takeaway? So either do the QR code or just stick with me. I'm going to put it in the chat in a minute. Okay, right. So the link is now in the chat. What's your biggest takeaway? And let me see who I want to invite in. Put something in the chat or let me see who I want to ask. Anybody but Farhana. What's your biggest takeaway? Or any thoughts or questions that you want to put? Or Deirdre, or anybody, Christiana, Joanna, anybody, any questions or any, what's your biggest takeaway? Be brave. You're still on mute. Ah, there you go. Go ahead. Say again, Farhana. I think you've gone back on mute. I can't hear you. I don't know why we can't hear you. Anybody else? Janet, Babasola Rohini. No, still can't hear you. Anybody else wants to jump in with a question or a comment?
Hello, good evening, Stacy.
Go
Thanks for
ahead.
the presentation. This is Right.
Hello,
So,
right.
my biggest takeaway is before now, I've given a first try at leadership, and
Yeah,
then I would say I wouldn't know what I would name it. Institutional racism, kind of embedded in
yeah,
micromanaging
yeah,
of staff and all that. So I felt withdrawn. I felt like not giving a second chance. My mindset was, if you're not welcome to the table, you have to create your own table. So I
yeah,
felt like you have to think out of the box, think out of the structure where you have to create your own table and get yourself a table. But then from today's talk, maybe um putting myself together to give it a second shot again.
yes, absolutely. And Farhana's put her thing in the chat. Are you a University of Nottingham graduate, Farhana? She said the University of Nottingham logo. Yeah. Yeah, so a really good point there, right? You have to bring your own chair, you bring your own table, but the underlying thing there is you have it, you just don't let them send you away. Just have the courage to keep trying. You said, you had your first shot of leadership, you had a bit of a setback. Be courageous. Do it again. Do it anyway. Okay? And in fact, those are my last words because we're about to run out of time, right? Just watch my screen. I'm just going to share some last words with you. And it touches on what Wright has said. It touches on some of the points I'm seeing in the chat and also on the Padlet. Okay. So here are my last thoughts that I want you to take away. Your instinct to lead is legitimate. Even thinking about what Wright has said, I took my leadership shot, it didn't go well. That need to lead, that urge to lead is legitimate. Keep trying, right? Just because you're not 5 years qualified, 10 years qualified, doesn't mean that your instinct to lead is wrong. Lead now. Think of yourself as a now leader, not a future leader only, right? You will be future leaders of organizations, but until then, practice. Act like a leader, think like a leader. Practice on a small scale. Lead now. I know this is going to seem really odd. My biggest wish for you is failure. I wish that you fail. That sounds weird, right? Because listen, if you are not failing, that's because you're not trying. You remember that every successful idea will have had 3 or 4 failures before you find the successful idea. If you are not failing, it means you are not trying. If you have failed multiple times, that means you will have successes. Because the thing is, if you're not failing 5 times, you won't have one success. So I wish for you failure, lots of failure, because that means that you will have more successes. Try, fail, learn, try again. I don't know if anybody watches, Stephen Bartlett, The Diary of a CEO. It's an international podcast. There's a job in Stephen Bartlett's company called Head of Failure and experimentation. That's my dream job. Imagine being the head of failure and experimentation in a company. I wish for you failure. And finally, and it goes back to some of the things that you all were all saying. I've tried. I'm new to the RCN. Wright said, I tried. I took my shot. It was difficult. A few other things on the Padlets. Do not fear fear. Don't be afraid of being afraid. Don't be fearful of leadership. Don't be fearful of trying. Don't be afraid of your fear. Because remember, it doesn't start with courage. You start off thinking, oh, I'm scared. And then the courage comes. It takes courage to lead. It takes courage to lead as probably at the start of your career journey, as a newly qualified, as a student, right? So don't be afraid when you feel that scary moment where I want to share an idea. I'm scared. Don't be afraid of that. Instead, let fear be a catalyst for your courage. Let fear spark the courage. First comes the fear. Feel that fear and reach for the courage. And of course, the courage comes from having people around you, good mentors, powerful sponsors, seeking out coaching. Like we said before, building relationships, new relationships, trying out new experiences. Let fear be your courage. It's been delightful spending time with you. I'm out of time. I will be looking at all the chats. Put your questions in there. Put some stuff on the notice board, and we'll be sending out the slides, I think, Martine, and the links to the Padlet boards. You can see what other people were thinking as well. Thank you so much for joining in and being active in the chat and being brave when I picked on you to unmute your mic. Reach out on LinkedIn. I think my LinkedIn page is on the first slide, which you'll be getting later. Okay, just pop something in the chat, and there is a little poll on the screen now. Just make sure you put your thing. Are you a member of the Nursing Now Challenge? Pop something in there so we get a sense of how many of you are in our community. Wonderful to spend time with you. Thank you, everybody. Can I hand back over to Martine or Hannah? Anything else we need to do before I let these wonderful people go? Thank you for joining. I know some of you have joined at night. I know some of you have joined in the morning. I know some of you had to run away from work. It's been wonderful to see you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Pop
so
something
much,
in the
Stacey.
chat. Yes,
Hello,
love to
everyone.
see
Thank you so
everybody.
much for joining. Just wrapping up. Thanks again to our amazing host, Stacey Johnson. And thank you all for joining. And please do look forward to some post-questionnaire stuff we have coming through. Keep an eye on your emails. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you later.
Bye.